Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Dr. John Sottosanti has the prescription for your success. Let's hear what he has to say. Dr. John, thanks for being with us today.
Bill, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Now, we've been talking about it before because I love your book, Mortal Adhesions. But tell us how you came up with that name and why you decided to write a book about your life.
I had a lot of success in life, but then when you have success, sometimes things go to your head, or you're too busy, or you make you make some errors in life, and all the stresses come in, and things aren't as good as you thought they would be. And I was very, very fortunate to be able to turn it around early and have a very, hopefully, successful life. So what I did was write the book. I called it Mortal Adhesions. It's about a surgeon and who finds basically happiness and inner peace. And what I did was I used the word adhesions, which is a surgical term. Some of your listeners probably know that if they've had surgery. Afterwards, adhesions, which is scar tissue, may form, and that causes pain. And in life, when we become successful, but we don't take care of the important things that come along with that, we may become addicted to various things. And some of those things may be alcohol and drugs, or they may be things like pride, envy, anger, greed, gluttony, lust. I mean, those have been called the 7 deadly sins. But if you don't get rid of them, it's pretty hard to really enjoy life to the fullest. In fact, I actually had reached a point of despair.
Before the show, I was saying to you, this is a book, I would say, about your life story and what you've gone through. And I was reading it today, and I honestly couldn't put it down. You have that knack of writing that holds a reader's interest, and that's what I always look for as someone on the radio. If a book doesn't grab me at first, well, every time I tried to put your book down, it grabbed me, and I had to read the next 2 pages. And then you talked about another adventure you went through. And some were just part of your life, some of your family life, some were your professional life, but you have a knack of putting it down in such an interesting fashion that I had difficulty putting the book down. I had to keep looking at the time saying, am I going to be late coming over to the studio? Will I be late for the show? How would you say most people define success?
Well, I think most people define success, which includes money, the ability to be happy, achieving goals that you've set, having college degrees or a good career would be another thing. Recognition and respect and quality relationships. I think those are the main things. I may have left something out, but that's what I think are the main things.
Now, in your life going through it, and of course you've met, and basically, and we'll tell our audience, if I have it correct, you were the president of the California, was it the Periodontal Association?
Yeah, Periodontal Society. I was a periodontal surgeon, which is an type of oral surgeon.
And you've written many papers.
I was state president.
So basically, you're that kind of intellectual person that we would all like to be. You're at the top of your field. You're obviously respected by your cohorts in the field. They elected you president. You've written academic papers, so you're obviously a very smart person. What traits would you say someone needs to be successful?
Well, I think what you need to really do is have clear set goals, worthwhile goals. And then you have to have perseverance. You can't give up easily. And then you have to be resilient, because you're not always going to have things go your way. And things change, and you need to be a continual learner. And you need to be disciplined. I mean, if you have a lot of work to do, you got to get up extra early in that morning and work hard. And you have to have a strong work ethic. You need to have a positive mental attitude. You also have to have a support system. That may be a significant other, a spouse, or a close group of friends. But having that support system is really important. And then health and physical and mental well-being, exercise, eat the right diet. I think those things are very important. I went to Toastmasters early on in my career because I didn't know how to talk in front of people, and that was helpful. You have to know how to manage resources like time, money, and materials. And the last thing that I can think of is creativity and innovation. You've always got to be thinking, is there a better way to do this? So that's my list, Bill.
No, that's an amazing list. And going along the way, did you find the balance changed? Because to keep things, obviously, to be a professional in your field, you're very busy on a day-to-day basis. You have to keep up with changes. Now you're president of the professional society. You have to instruct others and help them along the way and be at their call and just do an administrative work. That doesn't leave much time for the good things like exercise, family life, your own religion, keeping things in balance, taking a vacation with your family. How were you able to do that? That's what's amazing to me.
Well, thank you for bringing all those things up. I was able to do it to some extent, but I really overdid the being successful part. My dad was born in southern Italy, actually in Sicily, and his family was very poor, although he did, through scholarships, get a degree in civil engineering. But he would say to me, John, you've got to study hard. You've got to become a doctor, because if you become a doctor, you'll have two things. You'll have respect and you'll have money. So I was driven to be successful. And by the time I was 40 years old, I had a big surgical practice. I built it up to 52 people. I mean, typically a surgical practice of my type would be 5 or 10 people, but I had 6 surgeons and many nurses and assistants, front office support system. And then I wanted to be near the ocean. And then by age 40, I had a house pretty much on the ocean in Southern California. I wanted to drive a fancy car, and I overdid it, to be honest with you. I was trying to be too successful. And though I had family and I had friends, and that really helped a lot to keep me in balance. But I did go through some tough times because things happened. You know, you tend to think everything's going along great. It's going to be that way till you're 100 years old. And then I ran into a dishonest contractor that took all our money and didn't pay the subcontractors. I had a key employee who I thought was wonderful. She stole about $100,000 from us over a period of years. And things got tough for a while. And when I talk about digging in and persevering, we had to do that.
It's not that we want anybody to have bad luck and adverse events, but I think it helps. We tend to see our idols, our stars, people we associate with success as having a perfect life. Nothing ever goes wrong. Their doctor is never late for an appointment. They get into the restaurant on time. Their dinner is always hot, et cetera, et cetera. And it's good to know, unfortunately, that sometimes adverse effects hit all of us. A lot of successful people don't want to talk about it. They want us to view them as the perfect life. They have the perfect mate. Everything is perfect. And to be honest, we all know that that just doesn't happen. There has to be some adverse effects no matter what. In reading your book, I think you had a wonderful family background and growing up a great religious culture to base your life on. Would you agree with that?
I did. When I went off to a secular college, an Ivy League college, I really lost the religious aspect of my life. I did stay in touch with the close family, and that was my big support system, along with the woman I eventually married. But those things are so important to have support. And I did go through some tough times. I had to analyze my life, like what's going on? What's causing this? And all of a sudden, as time went on, actually, I became stressed because of this empire that I had built up. And what I noticed was I stopped sleeping well. And then I developed back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, anxiety. Finally, I actually can remember the night I called out to an unknown God, because I wasn't sure I even believed in one, and just said, please help me. If you're up there type thing, as I'm looking at the sky, is please help me. All I want is inner peace. And with that one submission, things started happening the next day.
I think that's great, and I appreciate your honesty in telling us, because, again, we like to project the image, and I think people even more so today, that they can be broke in bankruptcy and on drugs, and, everything is fine, and then you read about them in the paper, and the next day they're in the hospital, they've had some adverse effects, and the night before we're watching them on late-night TV, and they're bragging about how great things are. So for you to come forth and tell us that, I really appreciate you being so open with us. Dr. John, before we go further, I'd like to let our audience know, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Dr. John Sottosanti. He's the author of Mortal Adhesions. And John, would you please tell us the website where we can learn more?
Yes, it's the title of the book. Mortal, meaning we're going to die, is really what it means eventually. We're not eternal. And adhesions, those are post-surgical complications. Anyone that's had an abdominal surgery might have heard that term. It causes pain. Mortal adhesions are mortal life. If we're not careful, we pick up addictions, which I call adhesions. So the book and website are Mortal Adhesions, MORTALADHESIONS, mortaladhesions.com. You can go to Amazon, find the book. You can go to the website, find more information about me and the book, and get to Amazon or any place else through the website.
And this is, and I'm not just saying it because you're our guest, but this is a really interesting read. And as I said, I was reading your book, and I had a mystery book that I had started, and your book took the lead, and I couldn't put it down, literally. Going through your adventures, you have that short way of using 2 or 3 pages to talk about an incident, moving on to something else, and each time I had to read the next one, all of a sudden I'm late for things. So I'm blaming you. So if anybody calls you and said, "Why was Bill late?" it's your fault. The book was too good. You talked
Bill,
about
that is so good to hear. Thank you so much.
And it really is. And as I said, I wouldn't say bad things about it, but this is one that had me hooked, and I really enjoyed the way you talked about growing up, your family, the respect you gave them, the culture they gave you, your wife, etc. All of the adventures, they're very well put and explained for the reader, and to me, captivating. Let's put it that way. Now,
my goal was to write a novel-like book that would teach people about life in general. I'll call them The Secrets of Success.
There you go.
And The Secrets of Life.
Well, I'll tell you, if you write another book, John Gresham and James Patterson better move over, because you're going to knock them off the bestseller list. And I'll leave it right there. Now, you talk.
I'd love to quote you, Bill. So if you don't mind,
you can quote me. You can quote me anytime you want. Now you have your number one fan. So there you go. But you were fair to talk to us about business failures and the things in life that were problems. How did you overcome them? How did you recover? Because I think most of us think, okay, things are going along, and then maybe we have a bad day with the boss. Maybe there's a bankruptcy for the company we worked for, and not even a company like your own where you had 50 employees and doctors and professionals working for you. But we're just an employee, and now through no fault, we've lost our job, or we have to backtrack a little bit. How did you get over these things when you had lumps in the road?
Yeah, these things hit me at the same time. And we had the embezzlement, and we were just recovered from that. When we decided to move to a big office, we had a younger associate was going to come in and be a partner. And then 2 things happened. One with the contractor. We paid him, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Office was beautiful, but we started receiving letters from contractors' lawyers saying they were going to sue us because they hadn't been paid. And we went after the contractor. He declared bankruptcy, and we didn't get any money there. So we got stuck with repaying the subcontractors and paying lawyers' fees. And it was a terrible situation. My partner and I got together and we said, we're going to get through this. So we started working extra hours, 6 days a week, didn't take any money out of the business whatsoever. We lived off savings, glad we could do that, and eventually recovered, because bankruptcy was a choice. We just didn't want to do that. It worked out great, and I learned so many lessons from it. A patient of mine said, You are interested in teaching young kids how to not lose their teeth. He said, you ought to make a kit up with like a tape and a book. And I did that. He said, I thought I'd probably get 1,000 of them, maybe try to sell them. And he said, you can't make any money like that. To really get the cost down, you've got to make 10,000 of them. So he says they're $2.50 each. So I spent $25,000 a number of years ago to make all these children's kits, and they were beautiful. They looked like something that Disney would have put out. But the problem is I knew nothing about marketing and I couldn't get rid of them. So I was really stuck in a big hole. And I decided to give the kits away free to all the dental offices that referred me patients. And then they gave them free to their patients. And they were so happy, they kept sending me patients. So all of a sudden, my practice got so busy by giving all these kits away. So I got thinking that when life deals you lemons, make lemonade. And it really does work.
You know, that's really another great story. You've got to write a book just on the success part of your business. And of course, some of it comes from failure. But turning that, here you had all these kits. And I thought you were going to say it was just one of those things, a loser in life. We all hit, again, the little bumps in the road. But you've turned around by giving it to other physicians and other dentists. They could then give it out. It built their practice. It built your practice. And instead of being kind of a negative event that brings us all down, it turned out to be a real positive. And I'm thinking for other businesses how they could use that, whether it's a law office or an architecture firm or a medical firm, how they could turn something around. So you did it. Now, in your notes, you talk about the role of serendipity, and that's an unusual word, and the role it played in your success. Can you explain what that means and what role did it play?
Serendipity really is a situation that comes upon you which you don't expect, almost like chance, but it turns out to be something great. And I found that happened a number of times in my life. One in particular paid off financially really well. I was doing a surgery the next day, and I had just received from the inventor a small amount of bone graft material that would be used by me to fill a defect in a surgical site in the jaw. And I had everything all set up, ready to go. And one of the dental assistants or surgical assistants came through the door, swung it open, and half the material landed on the floor. So here I am in the middle of the surgery with only half of the bone filling material that I needed. So I knew the literature really well, and I knew that I had some sterile calcium sulfate, which you know of as plaster of Paris. It had been used first in Germany, 1892, in orthopedic surgery, so I knew it was safe. And I asked my assistant to get it out. I mixed it with the bone graft. Turned out I grew so much bone in that area that I continued to use the technique. And then I patented it and licensed it to a biotech company. And for about 10 years, I traveled the world teaching it and receiving royalties.
I just read about that story today in there, and you mentioned that I think you had to grind it very finely, and that's why when the door opened, it didn't take much to blow it all around the room. But I'm thinking of that and said, oh my gosh, that would have definitely ruined my day for the day, and much less maybe the week or the month. I guess immediately it probably did for you, but you turned it around and were able to quickly enough turn, as you said, lemons into lemonade. So that seems to be your specialty, turning the lemons into lemonade.
I try my best.
Dr. John, once again, let our audience know before we go further. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Dr. John Sottosanti. He's the author of the book, Mortal Adhesions. And Dr. John, we're going to ask you if you tell us the website where we can learn more.
Yes, Mortal Adhesions, one word.com. Mortal Adhesions, MORTALADHESIONS.com. In there's contact information. I have my email address. I actually have my phone number in there as well. So you can reach me.
And they don't have to make an appointment, right? You'll just talk to them without an appointment. No teeth come out, no teeth go in.
Away scot-free.
Just a nice guy who's going to talk to you. You talked about your life, and obviously as a doctor and a very successful one with a practice having 50 members of your firm, we know from there you must have been doing pretty well. And to the outside world, they look and say, oh, look at that successful doctor. And you mentioned you like nice cars. You took nice trips. But What are some of the non-material elements of success? Because I know you were very conscious of that. And in your book, you reflected on either some mistakes that you made or sometime maybe you moved too quickly ahead. What were the non-material things that meant the most to you?
You know, when I actually said, if you're up there, I just need help and I need inner peace. The very next day, I came across a book in a bookstore. Actually, it was on tape, and I was going to listen to it in my car. And the name of the book was Love is Letting Go of Fear. And I really learned some lessons in life, that there are two opposite ends of the spectrum. One is love, where everybody wants that. It's all the good feelings, emotions, etc. And on the opposite side is fear. And whenever you have fear, you have anger, upset, you may have envy, etc. And so the book taught me to really see people who are angry or disagreed with me or whatever in such a way, not to see them as bad people, to see them as fearful people. And in my mind would then say to myself, I wonder what they're afraid of. And in a moment, that changed my attitude. Let me give you one good example. I used to sometimes, Bill, arrive at the office, at 8 o'clock, ready to see the first patient. And then, I get distracted. Maybe there would be a phone call I'd make. And my assistant would come running in the room at 10 after 8 and say, that new patient in room 1 is out of the chair, walking the floor, looking at their watch, saying they're going to leave. And they're really upset with you for keeping them waiting. And I'd say to her, I'm booked up for a week in advances with surgeries. I don't really need that patient. Why don't you ask that patient or let that patient leave? After reading this book, I said to myself, I wonder why this person is so anxious and so fearful and so angry. Maybe they're afraid that I'm going to hurt them. Maybe they're afraid that they can't afford treatment. Maybe they're afraid they're going to lose time off from work and lose their job. So I would walk into the room with a different attitude and I would really feel sorry for them. And I'd walk in and say, hi, Mr. Jones, I really want to apologize for keeping you waiting. And I know you'll have to leave. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd be happy to look at your x-rays and give you a little idea what's going on. And I want to let you know there's no charge at all for today. And I'll bring you back whenever you're ready to come back and spend the full time and give you the complete diagnosis. Almost always when I changed my attitude, that patient would say, no, go ahead. I've got more time than I thought. Finish the exam. Let me know. And they'd go up and sign up for their procedure, on the way out. What a difference between an angry person and a person that really appreciates what you want to do for them.
I think from lessons we learn, and that's one in reading your book, no matter what you did, you seem to reflect on it, and not in a long, dragged out way. But what lesson could you learn? And of course, the people we have on about success, that's kind of the essence of everything. Even if something goes wrong, can you learn something from it? And here you turned, again, a third time in just the last few minutes, the lemons into lemonade. You had an angry patient, someone who wanted to get out of there. And as you said, it may have been that they had a tough boss. They had to get there before work. They were fearful of the pain that's coming up. And the more they thought about it, we're all scared of dentists. You guys have those big needles. You stick them in our mouth, and we're afraid of you. You don't know. It's like a pistol in our mouth. So just that you thought of that and how you converted that to a positive, there's a lot to be said, obviously, for that. Now, you talk about levels of happiness and different types of happiness in your book. Can you tell us what those are?
I would like to do that. I really think understanding those levels of happiness really helped me. There are today happiness courses that one can take, even at major universities like at Yale and Harvard. And I've looked, at least from a distance, at those courses and what they teach. And so often they teach things that have been around a long time, like make a gratitude list, do meditation, do yoga, do exercise, watch your diet, journal every night, breathe deeply from your chest. I mean, those things are fine, but do you really get a profound sense of happiness over time? Will that level of happiness really endure a diagnosis of cancer or a death in the family, et cetera? So Aristotle 2,000 years ago came up with the 4 levels of happiness. And his level 1 happiness, which I think we all experience and want to experience, is immediate happiness. It's immediate gratification. I have a certain flavor of Baskin Robbins ice cream that I love. So on a hot day, I'll drive by and get that ice cream cone. And for 15 minutes, I'm just as happy as could be, but then it melts and I'm not happy anymore. Or my sports team wins today and loses tomorrow. So that's level 1 happiness. Level 2 happiness is where you work hard to succeed at something and you receive honors and you're competitive, and that's all very good. And most of us live in level 2 happiness. I'd like to give an example, though. Take a tennis player, maybe a young lady who works hard every day for years to become a great tennis player, finally gets in the finals of a big tournament and wins, which is wonderful. But somebody always loses. And so your happiness is always dependent upon others, what they think of you, whether or not you got an award. So that's level 2 happiness, a comparative level of happiness. Level 3 happiness is a compassionate level. It's where you want to make a difference in the world. You want to help people without any direct remuneration. You may go work in a soup kitchen. You'll go treat patients without receiving a fee who can't afford treatment. You try to just do things for other people, and you get a real good sense of happiness. And then the 4th level really is hard to get to. And there's a good book to read would be Man's Search for Meaning, that talks about obtaining happiness is where you have to fill a void in your life. He talks about the existential vacuum. First of all, the author of the book was Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist who was in a concentration camp in World War II in I think it was Auschwitz, possibly.
Dr. John,
he noticed that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just getting a sign from our producer that we're running short on time. So I love having you on. I hope you'll come back with us, especially when you put out that next book. But thank you so much for being with us today. Again, I want our audience to know the book is Mortal Adhesions by our guest, Dr. John Sottosanti. And would you tell us the website one more time?
It's mortaladhesions.com.
Easy enough.
MortalAdhesions.com.
Easy enough to remember. Thank you so much. I'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.